Alright, this is the 1950s video too, and this is the second Red Scare. And this one was even crazier than the first one. Oh, it's so much fun. Here we go. First off, if you remember, communism is what we're fighting in the Cold War. Also, maybe I should have done this lastly. 1950s, what's going on? Cold War. While this is going on, Korea's going on. We have the Suez Crisis. We have the U-2 incident. We have all these different things. So we are terrified in this country that, much like China becoming red or communist, it could happen here. And there's a lot of fear in that, and it's called the Red Scare. In fact, Marvel Comics even wanted to do something as far as have this all-American hero, and his name is Captain America. Because who does Captain America fight, guys? Red Skull. Red is for communism. Is your mind blown yet? It should be. Alright. So that's our Red Scare. Let's move on to this. Now, beginning in the 1940s, there is a group set up in the Senate, and it's called the House Committee on Un-American Activities, or HUAC for short. Some famous people here. Most notably, Richard Nixon was part of HUAC and learned about wiretapping. And you're going to go, what? Wait till we get to Nixon, guys. Hang on. Now, the House Committee on Un-American Activities, you can see, is going to try to define what is un-American. That's a difficult thing to define, what's un-American. But you can see the political cartoon here. They are running over people's toes. That's an expression. You're stepping on people's toes. You're stepping on their freedoms. So freedom of speech is going to be reduced in this time in the effort of national security. It comes back again, guys. Personal freedoms are suppressed in the name of national security. This is now time 4. And it happens again, and it keeps happening. Okay? Now, they did also pass what is called the Smith Act. Okay? The Smith Act basically is going to go that if any individual supports the idea or anything that is promoting anything anti-American and going against the executive order, they can go to jail. So now, if you're a member of the Communist Party, we can put you in jail for 5 years. It's getting crazier in it, okay? But it gets much, much worse. This is early 1950s, 40s. Truman also comes out and issues what is called the Loyalty Review Program. The Loyalty Review Program actually targeted more than anything else teachers and professors. You have this famous political cartoon called You Read Books, Huh? And you see the people, and the men actually resemble a lot of bloodhounds. And they're going through this teacher stuff and seeing how there's a Soviet Union on the map, and there's math, and all this different stuff, and questioning her about why are you teaching these things. Now, a few college professors actually refused to take the loyalty oath, it was called, and there was a big deal at Cal where a lot of professors were actually let go for refusing to take the loyalty review. Crazy stuff, I know. Now, this gets a little bit more intense in the fact we have a group of Hollywood directors and writers collectively called the Hollywood 10. Now, the Hollywood 10 were officially blacklisted. That means they cannot get any jobs, write for any directors, or sell any other screenplays, etc. Now, the big one here, played by Bryan Cranston of Breaking Bad fame, is named Dalton Trumbo. Dalton Trumbo was a very eccentric man, kind of a little bit odd, but he was one of the ones who was on this blacklist. And what did you get to put on this blacklist? You produced a picture that, in the minds of the loyalty reviews, or the House Un-American Activity, or the Smith Act, went against the established thing, talking about communism in some type of light that some maybe could construe as being overly supportive of. Okay. Now, the big occurrence here, pre-McCarthyism, is what we call the Whittaker, or the Hiss Chambers Affair. Okay, sorry, I'll get it. Alger Hiss worked for the U.S. government. He's accused of being a communist under the Loyalty Review, under the House Un-American Activity, Whittaker Chambers is a journalist, and all this is going on. He goes, you have no proof on it. Whittaker Chambers says, I do. It's called the Pumpkin Papers, and it's because he hid the evidence inside that hollowed-out pumpkin. I know it sounds stupid, but it actually happened. Now, they take him to court. They do discover he's not a communist, but they discover, and he goes to jail for perjury. Perjury is lying under oath. When you go and you take the witness stand or anything like that, they make you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And they're going to use the phrase, so help you God. If you violate that, you can actually go to jail. They call it perjuring yourself, etc., self-incrimination. And so all of that is valid here, okay? Then things start to get a little bit crazier. A senator from Nevada, there's an airport named for him in Vegas, called McCarran, is going to push through the McCarran Act. The McCarran Act targeted unions or communist organizations, mainly unions. So for you to be a union and for you to exist in this union, you had to sign up with the federal government saying that you were a union. Now this is big because the next guy's going to use this type of stuff, okay? So what ultimately happens in the McCarran Act, there's a list of people who could potentially be communist supporters in this country. What could be done with that? Now, the poster right there, will you register a swastika? Some anti-McCarran Act people actually said this is very similar to the Nuremberg laws, in that the fact they make you register with the government and they could potentially take your rights away. Then we meet Joseph McCarthy. Joseph McCarthy is a senator, and he is convinced that communism has infiltrated or going to try to subjugate or to what's the word? Subjugate? Subversion. There you go. Is going to try to subvert the government, and that means get inside and completely destroy it from the inside. So Joseph McCarthy famously appeared with a list, and he said, I have a list of names. Well, I wonder where he got that from. Of people who could be communists working in your government. Okay? And people began to wig out for this, and so it gave us another ism. Now, ISM and ism is the practice of doing something. McCarthyism is the practice of accusing somebody of something, we're going to say communism, with little or no regard to factual proof. Now, there is a very big parallel here to Arthur Miller's story, The Crucible, which is about the Salem witch trials. And much like the judge and someone saying, you're a witch, and badgering and bullying, Joseph McCarthy was the same way, only it was not about being a witch, it was about being a communist. And so we have those things, right? Now, the big people he got a hold of was a married couple by the name of Ethel and Julius Rosenberg. These people were accused of being atomic spies because in 1955, the Soviets have learned to detonate an atomic bomb, and we are convinced somebody sold us out. And it comes back somehow to Ethel and Julius Rosenberg. Now, they will be sentenced to death by the electric chair, and in a weird, maybe ironic, I don't know, they were actually executed on their wedding day, and they did have 2 boys. Anywho, let's keep going, okay? So they were executed, they were put to death, and the big question was, were they actually communist? It's not until the 90s, 40 years later, that we learn through a published report called Project Venona that Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were in fact spies. So this was justified, but there's a 40-year delay there. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what their children went through? And so that's kind of the high point of McCarthyism. Everything after that is now downhill. Then McCarthy makes the big mistake. He accuses generals in the U.S. Army of being communist. When you do that, the Senate's got to hear it. So these are called the Army McCarthy hearings. And he goes, and this is on live TV, and the people begin to see McCarthy for what he is, a bully. He's battering witnesses, he's doing this, and famously, the man who opposed him said, "Mr. McCarthy, you have no sense of decency." And America said, "Yeah, we don't like this." Ultimately, it is found that the Army is not communism, and everything that Joseph McCarthy said is going to be censured, not censored with an O, but censured with a U, basically as if it never existed. McCarthy had a tragic end. He kind of met his demons head on, I guess you could say, with alcohol, and ultimately he died from complications, a liver or kidney failure of that. And so that was the most chaotic thing really in the 1950s, that how do we come to this? There's going to be some about McCarthyism, but the name of the game is give up personal freedoms in order or in the name of national security. It's going to continue to happen. So be aware of that trend, okay? That was video 2 about the 1950s.